Hi there, it's Liz Yuille from Old Stables Crafts. Thank you very much for joining me again today. This is part of my Advent countdown series, and this is the card that we're making today. Those of you who have watched me for any length of time will realise that I generally don't put anything on the inside of my cards because I like them to be blank for your special message. But obviously you can add a sentiment if you wish. So this is using the lovely Season Like Christmas stamp set, which is a 2-step stamp set, although actually it's nearer 4, but it is multi-step stamping. I've got a slightly different colourway today. This is Always Artichoke, and Cherry Cobbler. So I think Always Artichoke is a bit of an overlooked colour. So I thought I'd give it a little bit of a lift. And I'm really pleased with how it's worked out. Even though this ribbon is technically Real Red and Old Olive, it actually works. And this is the quilted Christmas ribbon. And both of these are in the Autumn Winter catalogue that's out at the moment. So let's get going, because it's not a difficult project. It just takes a little bit of stamping. So I've got a piece of Whisper White and the first of my, and a filthy board apparently, the first of my stamps. So the way I've done this is light, dark, and then I'm adding some embossing. And this is the stalk. And then if you want to add a shadow at the bottom of your tree, this is for that. But because of the way that I'm doing my card, there isn't really the space for that. But if you want to add the shadow for your tree, then that's what that is. And you can add a star at the top if you wish as well. But again, because of the way that I've done my card, that's not actually an option for me because I don't have enough space. But that's fine. So first stamp is Old Olive. Because this is the background colour rather than the shadow. So I'm just going to ink that up. Now this is a photopolymer stamp set, obviously. If you find that you're not getting a good impression, then use the piercing mat, but this, as you know, is a padded surface, so I'm not really having to worry too much about that, although a clean piece of card would be nice. So I'm going to do that sort of in the middle, and just make sure you put good even pressure and give enough time for the ink to actually soak into the paper. And I'll just clean that up with my stamping scrub. Oh, dry the block off a bit, and grab my next stamp, which is what I think of as the shadow. And leave that open over there. Close up my Old Olive because I don't need that anymore. So Always Artichoke, which is a really nice kind of forest green. So for a pine tree is perfect. Let me just move everything down a bit so you can see it better. So again, gentle tapping to get that properly inked up. And then I kind of line up the gaps. Can you see as well as you're going to? Yes. So I just line up the gaps so that, and this indent at the bottom. It's a fairly forgiving stamp. It is, after all, just building up an impression of a tree. And that will fade. So it will dry back a bit. So if you look at this, this is a lot softer in colour. Because it will dry into the paper. So that's that. So the final stamp is the long skinny one, which looks kind of strange because it's the bit that fills in the tree. Now, because although it's a fairly forgiving stamp, I am just going to let it relax on a matte surface. You'll have seen my one of my Top Tip Tuesdays for the long thin stamps. Just let them relax and then pick them up once they've had a chance to relax, otherwise they can bend a bit. It's not so vital with this because it is just an impression, but better safe than sorry. And this is early espresso. So again, just gentle taps. And this time we do actually want this to fill those gaps. And there we go. So that's all the colour stamping. Now I'm going to leave that all to just settle before I do the embossing, because I am going to emboss with gold embossing powder, but to reduce the chance of the embossing powder sticking to slightly damp ink, I'm just going to leave that. I'll mount up my stamp. I should put it a bit further up, I think. Mount up my stamp and pop that all to one side. And in the meantime, I will grab my bits of measured, well, sort of measured, this is a scrap, measured card. So I'm working on a standard A6 card base, which is A4 cut in half and scored down the middle, although I tend to score it down the middle and then cut it in half, because that way I only have to score once. So that's a saving tip for you, a time-saving tip. So that's my card base. And then my mats are cherry cobbler and always artichoke. If you're doing any die cutting that you need cherry cobbler for, then you could obviously die cut out of the middle or gut the middle if you want. But for this video, it's easier for me just to do the whole thing together. So my cherry cobbler is 5 5/8 by 3 7/8. And my always artichoke is 5 1/2 by 3 3/4. Don't worry, dimensions, including the metric versions, will be on my blog post, which is linked below. So do go and have a look at that. So this I am going to dry emboss, as in, you know, big shot emboss, using the Holly Textured Impressions embossing folder. So all I'm going to do with that is pop that into the middle of my embossing folder, and then the sandwich you want is your standard platform, but without my scrappy cutting plate. So just the Big Shot platform without the thin die adapter, then your embossing, then another cutting plate, and then just, so that's your sandwich, and then just run that through your Big Shot, which I shall do. Oh. There we go. And then you open it up, and that is your embossing. So that's easy peasy. Let me just pop that away while I can. So this is then just going to, got a bit of stray white. This is then just going to pop on here, and I will use my ever so trusty, ever so favourite liquid adhesive, because then I can catch these bits that are proud of the surface. Ooh. And that then just sticks onto our mat. So that's that, and then this we need to, oh, I know what I forgot to do, it doesn't matter. So what I did on the original was actually wrap the ribbon round before I stuck the embossed surface on, but in fact what I can do is just put it round the whole lot. So I'm actually going to grab some glue dots to do that. So just grab a glue dot, pop it on the end of your ribbon, assuming it wants to, and then just run that, is that about right? Yep. Run that round your card and then trim that down and pop another glue dot on that end, and then that is nice and straight. And then for the bow, well, I say the bow, the knot, all I do is tie a half knot. So literally just tie a half knot around your existing piece of ribbon, and that is a much easier way than trying to tie the ribbon in a knot so that it's taut. So yeah, I always do it as 2 pieces. So that's that, and this we can now stick onto our card base, and then we can do our heat embossing. And again, I'm going to use my trusty glue. And you really don't need too much. So there we go, that's that all ready to go. So let's do our heat embossing. So here's our now dry stamping. Still going to use the embossing buddy just in case, but also just in case I've got any sticky fingerprints over the card, which I probably have. So Versamark ink, and get that well inked up. And then just, can you see? Yes, you can. Then just pop that onto your card. Give it a good press. And up. And then embossing powder. So this is the gold embossing powder. And just sprinkle generously over your stamped image. Quick flick. Yep. So, no little stray bits. If you do have any stray bits, then what you need is a reasonably stiff brush. So something that's got a bit of oomph behind it. This is one that's used for acrylic painting, or I should say painting with acrylics, and that works quite well, but you do want it to be a reasonably firm brush so that it doesn't get all carried away with itself. The softer brushes can remove bits that you don't want removed. So, trusty cheese board and my heat tool, which I will heat up under my desk. And then all we've got to do is a quick bit of die cutting and we're done. So, let's just and it's going. I love it. Can't get enough of heat embossing. Lovely. So that's that. Now, die cutting. So I'm using the Layering Ovals dies, which, as you probably know, have got scallops as well as straight edge. And let me see if I can remember. I think I'm on the largest of both. Yes, so the largest of that and the largest of the straight. The straight is slightly bigger than the scallop. So I'll cut the straight one first, and that's just with the gold foil. And again, if you want to cut from the middle, which I might actually do, so take a die that is reasonably smaller, so you don't want to be fiddling around with. So I'll take the 3 down and run those 2 together, because this is still going to be usable. So let's not waste it. So just build up my layers. This is where I would probably be better using my magnetic platform, but I have my standard platform on at the moment, so let's do that. And there we go. So that's the piece I need. This I can then use for something else, as of course I can that. So that's those bits. And then for this, I just need to cut that. And there we go. So pop that away. Don't need that scrap anymore. So all we've got to do now is build it up. So we don't need the piece we've cut out. All we need are those two pieces. I will run a bit of fast fuse just around a couple of bits of the edge. This is where, because obviously we've gutted the gold foil, it's not as easy to attach. If you use a complete mat, then obviously you just put a bit all over the place and it's fine. But because we're being frugal, and there we go. And then just some dimensionals on the back. Don't need a huge number because all it's doing is adhering one thing to another. So we don't need to go mad. And then that just pops on there. So let's get rid of those bits. There you go, two fairly straightforward little Christmas tree Christmas cards. So I hope you enjoyed that. If you did, oh, let's get it in camera. If you did, give it a thumbs up. If you haven't already subscribed, please do hit the subscribe button. And then if you hit the bell as well, you get notification of when I've posted a new video. So you won't miss out on those. If you need any of the products, please do jump over to my online store. It would be a great help to me if you're in the UK, if you chose to shop through me. I'd love to earn your business. That would be brilliant. I do try to look after those who help me out. So that would be great. There's information about the new stamping blends, the designer series paper, get 3, get a 4th free on selected designer series paper, which includes some Christmas papers. So that's all on my website blog post, which is linked below. So I hope you enjoyed all that, and I will see you again very soon. Thanks a lot for watching.